Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today and thank you for your support. Today I'll be talking about the Analogue Productions Atlantic 75 series release of the Yes album, cut at 45 RPM by Kevin Gray, pressed at QRP. I'm sorry. I have flubbed this intro so many times, I'm tired. Pressed at QRP, in-house in a lovely Stoughton gatefold that is not glossy. Be that as it may, I have three other pressings I'm going to compare it to, briefly. They are the 1977 Specialty Records pressing from the US, two UK Plums, and the Bernie Grundman cut that was in the box set. Last night, I was on David Bianco's Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion channel discussing the Yes album with David and his associate Brad. It wasn't the first time I was on David's channel. The first time was for a 3-album Yes shootout. In the first video, I covered Fragile, David covered Close to the Edge, and Brad covered the Yes album. The idea being that as the Analogue Productions 45s came out, we would revisit and reconvene and all review the same album. And that's exactly what happened last night. So please take a look at David's video. It's very interesting and you'll get a couple of other opinions on the subject. For my channel, I'm going to go through them briefly and elaborate a little bit more on the Analogue Productions Atlantic 75 series release. Whatever it's called. It's got too many names. Analogue Productions, Atlantic 75, Acoustic Sounds, whatever. Okay? It's that one. I'm getting tired. Okay. This is my 1977 specialty pressing. It is not mastered by George Piros. It is mastered by someone else with the letters E and possibly an L. I tried to dig down on Discogs and find out more about it, but I couldn't. However, let's talk about it briefly. It's super clean, near mint, lovely. It's been cleaned on the degritter. I kept it because it's in such nice condition. I bought it before I was comparing pressings, like 15 years ago. I haven't played it much since then, and I remember why. As nice and clean as it is, it's super bright. It's just kind of bright. And it comes off a little threadbare, a little bleach sounding. That may sound horrible. It's not horrible. It still has a nice clarity to it, transparency. But it's missing warmth also. It doesn't have much bass response and it's a bass light presentation. Not one that I could recommend. If you have it, you could do better for sure. I'll keep it just for comparison's sake, like I need a million copies of this album. But I have come to appreciate it much more. It's just that listening to it 12 times in a row, it's got to be a little bit much. This is the UK Plum that Brad sent me, the one that David and Brad listened to. This is another UK Plum that John sent me. I compared the dead wax. They look the same. They sound the same. John's was cleaned on the degritter. The degritter went back to Oz before I could clean the two that came in from Brad. So Brad's UK Plum is going back to him uncleaned, and the Bernie Grundman as well. So the UK Plums are probably the biggest disappointment I've had in a long time. I mean, I reviewed the Fragile UK Plum, and now I've heard these two, and I think honestly these are overrated. I think they're collected for rarity, especially here in the US. We think they're some kind of grail, you know, original country of origin, probably original master tape, first pressing. Yet, based on my limited experience with UK Plums. They're nothing special. They're nothing to write home about. And that was the case with this. I did write some notes, but I'm kind of afraid to read them because they were so negative. But it was less bright than in 1977. I will give it that. So that was good. It had a better balance overall. More bass, a little warmer. But it was harsh. It got shouty. It was grainy and confused. Sometimes a flat kind of feeling. Very lackluster. It didn't really jump out at me as a great pressing. I always found something to criticize about it. And I hate that. That's why sometimes I hate doing shootouts, because it's like, oh, you get so critical. You hear this, you hear that. You don't enjoy the music until you get to that right pressing. The UK Plums did not float my boat. Brad had it coming out close to the Grunman, if not equal to it. I think he had some varying opinion on the strengths of each. So it'll be interesting to hear what he says about it tonight. Actually, I'm filming this before the shootout just to get it done. So even though I said, okay, this is just too confusing. Never mind. Okay, so the plums. If you have a plum, I think you can do better. The Grunman. The Grunman is from the box set. It was in a multi-format box set. It's not available individually. Apparently it's discounted now, so you could probably pick it up for about $70 or $80. Do I think it's worth it? No, honestly I don't. Bernie Grunman is a mastering engineer I admire, of course, and I think he's done a competent job here. But I don't think he's brought out the very best of this recording. It is better than the other two. I'll give it that. It is clear. It doesn't get hashy. It doesn't get bright. It is a little bright, but it doesn't get annoyingly bright. It has wonderful clarity. It has a bit more bass. Overall, it sounds like the record we know and love, but cleaned up a bit and a bit more polite. It still has energy. It still has drive. It's not audiophile to death. It's pretty faithful, I think, to probably what the master tape sounds like. So if that's what you're looking for, I think you'll find the Bernie Grunman to be a good listen. All three of these, though, left me wanting, honestly. It wasn't until I got to this one, Kevin Gray's 45 RPM, that I came to truly appreciate the Yes album. Let's talk about this. Kevin Gray and Chad Kassem have transformed this record. Unbelievable. Let's start at the top. Instead of the bright, sometimes shouty, sometimes hashy sounding, nasty sounding top end, this is not like that. This is clear as a bell. Clear as water, smooth, detailed, and gorgeous. There's no other way to describe it. It's such a difference from these other pressings. I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard it. I was like, oh, finally, we got a top end that is gorgeous. Still has the energy, still has the power and excitement of the other pressings, but it doesn't result in a bright, hashy sounding, aggressive sounding pressing. You could turn this up and that top end will not fall apart. And that makes it number one in my book already. But that's just the beginning. The vocal clarity, the vocal quality all over the album is exceptional. Much, much better than whatever I heard on these other pressings. Oftentimes, John Anderson sounds spotlit, is comes across as glary on the earlier pressings, shouty, and not like the angel he normally could sound like. Here, it's not like that at all. Beautifully positioned in space, absolutely clear, no glare, no grain, no distortion. If there's multi-layered vocals, you hear every layer. It never gets harsh. It never gets grainy. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. If there's another vocalist in the backing vocals, you hear it clearly. That doesn't happen on the earlier pressings. Vocal quality is another plus for this. A big plus. So much nicer to hear him clearly saying these words in nice sense of space and depth around him and air. It's just amazing. Beautiful. Mid-range. The thing about this is the 45 format has given us the space to open up the record. And the mid-range clarity is beautiful on this. All the things that fall in the mid-range, the vocals, the acoustic guitars, gorgeous. Because there's no distortion. And there's an added warmth to the sound. On the acoustic guitars, for instance, on the clap, that live cut, on all the earlier pressings, it sounds like crap. Sounds like a bright, nasty, aggressive sounding guitar. Here, it's almost transformed into an audiophile recording. It has warmth. It has the presence that you would hear as if an acoustic guitar was being played right before you with all the overtones and beauty. This is very special. You don't get that on the other pressings, including Bernie Grundmann's. That alone was a nice feature of the mid-range, but everything that falls in the mid-range sounds better. And one thing that I love about this is because there's such low distortion, you hear nuance galore. Not the kind of nuance that says, hey, look at me, I'm bright, I'm noticeable. It's not like that. It's like hearing a musical part, maybe an instrument that you didn't realize was being played the way it is, or not really realizing that that instrument was being played at all. Nuances in the vocals, in the sound staging, in the placement, in the production itself, in the guitar sound, the electric guitar sound, the drums. The drums are on another level here as well. There's so much nuance, but it doesn't draw attention to itself. It's just like arrayed in space, and you're just like, oh, whoa, oh, wow. All of that. The bass and organ. The organ, let's talk about that. The organ has never sounded better. It does not sound good on the other pressings. Not like this. This has proper weight and clarity and no distortion. All the other pressings, when the organ gets loud, it sounds a bit distorted. And it may be because earlier pressings have been played on lesser equipment and the needle couldn't handle it and kind of damaged the groove. This is especially noticeable on the end of Yours Is No Disgrace. There's a very effective moment on that where the organ goes very deep and performs a frequency sweep up into the heavens. On most pressings, that is distorted. You'll hear a graininess to it that's just not attractive. Today, with our equipment today, we can track things like this easily. And on this, it is the most thrilling thing. Wait till you hear that. That'll surprise you. Very clean. And it really goes like really high. Just to infinity. It's beautiful. The organ throughout the album adds weight and texture and a majestic feel. And it always comes in at the right weight and the way it sits in the soundstage. It's fantastic. The organ and guitar are part of the highlight of the album for me. And I'm going to talk about it now because there's so much to talk about. It could go on forever. But the highlight of this album for me, and I say highlight because if a moment on a record always consistently gives me that feeling, like a physical goosebump feeling every time I play it, that is the highlight of the album for me. On Genesis Selling England by the Pound, it was in Firth of Fifth. And this is a similar type of feeling where something goes so low. In this case, it's the organ. On Selling England by the Pound, it was, I think, bass pedals. But bass, either organ or bass, and guitar solo going like this. It's so impressive on here. I went back to listen to the other pressings. It's like a weak representation of what Kevin Gray got on this. This is spectacular. There's more and more and more. The point is, Chad Kassem with Kevin Gray have produced the ultimate edition of the Yes album. I have no question about it. They finally revealed this work of art in all its glory. I never thought I would hear it with this amount of beauty and detail and power and depth. I had a new appreciation for this record. The musicianship, the production, the sound, even the lyrics came across better. The whole musical message is much, much better on this. Honestly, it's a revelation. If you've been listening to this record all your life, you must hear this version. Even if you have what you think is the best version you've ever heard. Even if you have the George Piros pressing. This is something special. It's one of the most significant upgrades in sound I've heard in a long time. And that's saying something. Many times a mastering will improve something. It'll be a subtle improvement, but it'll be an improvement. This is not subtle. This is on another level, in another orbit. Honestly, they've done this record to a level that I didn't think possible. I'll put it that way. I was in tears of joy listening to this. And that's the highest praise I can give it. I don't think I can say anything else about this without going on for a half hour. So I'll leave it at that. If you have this pressing, let me know what you think about it. Until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.